Well, while I wish I could say that I'm surprised, looks like EA has canceled another Star Wars game, the previously announced open world game that was being built from the remains of the previously canceled Star Wars game by Visceral, the developers of Dead Space. And I mean, like I said, I wish I could say I'm surprised, but what do you expect? This is basically what they do at this point. Anything that might have some kind of promise but isn't necessarily going to be as milkable as they'd like it to be. I mean, let's be real, it was going to make a ton of money. It's Star Wars. People have been dying for anything that's not Battlefront at this point. But I guess they couldn't find some way to really milk the cow on that one, and here we are. Another game down the tube. All we have to look forward to at this point is the game from the Titanfall developers, which, sounds good, but here's the thing. At this point, with anything that EA says they're making in this franchise, anything that they're doing with it, it looks like if it's not exactly what we don't want it to be, then they're not interested in making it. So anything that sounds good, it means that there must be something in there that makes EA think they can milk you on it. And that right there is just, it makes you not even want to try to proceed with anything that they put out there. And I mean, the overall consensus seems to be, and I definitely agree with it, it's time for Disney to step in, take that license away, and give it to someone who's actually going to do something with the franchise. I mean, I've heard people say they don't even care who it is. Anybody would do better than EA at this point, and I guess overall that's definitely true, but I think it does matter who it is. I mean, I don't think it should just go to anybody. As a matter of fact, I think what they should do, instead of giving it to a particular developer, let developers make pitches, Let there get some competition and some creativity in there, because part of the problem with these games is that, like, when you're giving them to a publisher like EA or, Activision or Ubisoft or anybody else out there who might have the money to really make multiple games over some span of time in this franchise here, the problem is that everyone has kind of their formula, and everything becomes so formulaic, and if they do shitty things anyways, then that's going to be in all their games, and it just kind of kills it. But when you let not even necessarily independent, they can be bigger studios with, better backing and everything, but still, when you're getting different places coming around and saying, here's what we'd like to make, and you say, okay, that sounds like something that'd be interesting. If you can make that, then go ahead and make that, and let it be, bank off of that, bank off what people are going to buy from all these different developers trying different things. I mean, I can think of, there's certain ways that the, different developers, I could have seen the EA formula working in a game like Battlefront. They made Battlefront. And not necessarily they didn't do it well. They fucked it all up. They put a lot of things in there that you just don't want in a game like that, especially any competitive game. But it still was their kind of, area. They have Battlefield, so they know how to make a shooter, and it's a good game mechanically speaking. It's just all the extra EA-ness that came along with it, But, and then you have other developers, you have other studios like even Ubisoft. They're a publisher, but they have studios that can make a great action game. There are studios out there that can make a great little RPG and a great this and, just different things. But when you're giving it to one place and trying to have one overlord of, what's going to be made, they're going to be looking for what they do and how they monetize things as much as possible. But at this point, I mean, Disney has to know that they're hurting their brand. At this point, people aren't going to want to even get like certain or really any Star Wars games, because they know that it's going to have some of that EA BS. And who wants to deal with that? Certainly not me. I gave my chance for both of the Battlefront games. Some people played number one, and it was disappointing. Mainly, number one's biggest disappointment was mostly in the content. It was just lacking. There wasn't enough there to do. And it got boring, just repetitive, repeating the same thing and doing the same maps. And then eventually when they did start rolling stuff out and you had to buy it, by then I was just over it myself. But the next one, a lot of people didn't even want to give that one a chance, but I went with it because I'm a big Star Wars fan myself. So I was willing to give it a try. It looked like it had a lot of promising things. But then when it came, and it was just microtransactions, pay to win nonsense all over the place, and there was really nothing redeeming about it. Redeeming about the game itself. It was fun, but it wasn't fun enough to put up with what was there. I didn't even buy the game when it initially came out. I got it from the red box, tried it a little bit, enjoyed it, but wasn't going to do all of the other stuff, and got tired of running through places and people. I mean, you're talking about a weekend, and these guys have all the cards, the cards that they had on there, all maxed out, just wrecking you. And you knew there was no way. You could see their level. There was no way that they went through and did all that. So it just kind of killed it. And then there's been a lot of promise. There's a lot of games that they could be making that they're just not, and they don't seem to have any interest in it. I mean, there's pictures and everything all over the internet where you see. Just look at the amount of games that LucasArts put out from like 2000. I think the last image I saw showed 2002 to 2006. There's like 10 games in there that they put out in that much time. And the amount of time that EA has had this franchise, they put out 2 games, a mediocre one, and one that was so bad that it put the whole industry on blast. Actually had politicians looking into the gambling mechanics and everything that are in these games and the way they're trying to take advantage of their players. And that's what they're doing. They're taking advantage of a franchise, for one that they didn't build up. They didn't create this franchise. This isn't something that's theirs and it's like, oh, well, if you don't like it, get it some. Well, no, this isn't theirs. This isn't even Mass Effect or anything that they have any claim to. This is one that's been around forever, has its own fans that are coming over, and now they're having to deal with this outside organization that suddenly has control over something that they care about and are just wasting it, and not even just wasting it, but tainting it. And Disney needs to recognize that and say, okay, it's obvious that at this point, you're making our brand look bad. You're making people think, oh, this is what we get from Star Wars games, so I'm not going to get any Star Wars games. And at the end of the day, who knows what's going to happen. I mean, they have the game from the Titanfall developers on the way out at some point, maybe this year, I think, maybe the following year if it gets delayed, but, people are going to look forward to that. And there are going to be people who are going to they're not going to get it, because at this point, EA's name is in a lot of trouble. Like, they have Anthem coming out with BioWare. That, for me, that looks really good. I'm very interested in that one, so I'm definitely going to be checking that out. And that's kind of more because BioWare, I have a lot of respect and a lot of fond memories with a lot of their older games. Most of their older games. Get almost any BioWare up to Andromeda, and that was a whole different team there, but that's a whole different discussion there. But so I'm going to give that one a try because I'm going to see how much push they still have to maintain their integrity. But really anything else that has EA stamped on it, it's just, at this point, they'd be better off opening a new company and just having them publish stuff under their name and just letting EA die, because EA is just, who wants, EA, if it's in the anything, it's in the trash. And it's time to move on, especially for Disney. Please listen to all these people who are just saying, just get it away from them. We'll buy your games. That's not a question. I mean, we'll go to the store, we'll download it online, we'll do whatever, we'll play them. But not if it keeps on coming out in the same quality and at the same kind of rate that it has been, because it's disappointing, and something needs to be done fast before people are just all over it, because the movies themselves are having their own problems with the fan base. And if you're adding on another whole side of the medium, and that was one of the things that, back in the old days, you could say is the extended universe, whether you're talking about books or comics or games to Star Wars, they always had a lot of like hit and miss, but there was like so much of it, and that it overall it was just great, and it's very interesting. But since Disney's got a hold of it, and they've kind of rebooted it, well, erased stuff and kind of sectioned it off and come at it with the little fine razor and pick what they wanted and toss what they didn't. And since then, they've had a chance to kind of rebuild what was there, and the movies have kind of been, I guess I'd say, hit or miss, but then again, the movies have more or less always been hit or miss. The original was a big deal. The second's a masterpiece. The third one was where it kind of started being, split somewhat down the middle, somewhat in a kind of way. But in the prequels, it's not even going all that. But the rest of it, they always had amazing games that offered you experiences that the movies didn't even. The books and the comics and the games and everything. That's where we got, the Old Republic and all the stuff that happened. The things were insane before, like the whole trilogy and the whole Skywalker saga. There were a lot of amazing things that happened. We got to experience those. And when they erased them, my one kind of optimism to when they went back and erase some of that stuff. Like, even at this point, as far as I know, like, maybe this has changed, maybe there's been something in there that I just haven't seen, but as far as I know, Revan doesn't even exist right now within the Star Wars mythos, and that's kind of a travesty. But hey, at least they could bring him back. They could recreate him. They could give us something that reintroduces him to the character. If it's not a movie, then why not a game? You know, a book would be good as well, but I still want to have that hands-on experience with that character that I spent so much time with. I've played Knights of the Old Republic more times than I can even count at this point. You know, and these days you can get it anywhere from computer to the, I think it's on Xbox, or you can get it on your phone at this point. You know, but they're just leaving a lot of things on the table, and it's like they're trying to get it all, that they're missing what's there. You know, it's like it's like it's like playing a poker game, and you know, you have all the chips. You got 95% of the chips right there, sitting right there, and they're all yours. But 5% is split between 3 other players. 3 guys are still in. You got 5%. Now, are you gonna keep on? What does it matter? Why mess with what you have when all you're doing is risking to get pretty much nothing? If anybody's going to come up, it's going to be those little 3 players there, and at this point, nobody's winning. There's nobody that's walking away happy in this situation. I mean, who's still playing Battlefront? I think every so often, I think when they had the last update, I jumped on there just trying to, not the last one, most recently, but I think probably the solo content. Jumped on there and tried it out again, and it's still fun, but you can still tell that it was built to be a certain kind of way. And since they had to go back and change all that, it doesn't quite click right. Things don't progress like I think they would have. It would have been built that way from the get-go. So that's a failure in my opinion. You know, that they have the new content coming out, but a lot of that is kind of too little, too late. I want a good story. I want to be able to have my own Star Wars character with a lightsaber, with real detailed, like a Star Wars experience, not just, you know, Star Wars thrown over an experience, which is just their regular combat, regular, you know, action type of, you know, war game. But anyways, this is already going on a bit more than I intended it to, but I just wanted to get that out there, and I think anybody who feels the same way should definitely get it out there. Let them know that what they're doing is not helping them in any way. It's making people resentful, and it's making people very apprehensive to anything Star Wars announced, in as far as games go right now, especially. But if you agree, let me know. If you disagree, you know, maybe have a conversation about it. If there's something that you think that EA can do to turn it all around, and, you know, is that new game coming out what you're waiting on? Is that kind of your last straw there? Leave a comment down below, like and subscribe for more videos. You know, see what happens from here. And I'm also putting in a good push over on Twitch, so you can check me out there at twitch.tv/WeJustGamer. So check it out. That's every Saturday night at 8 o'clock Pacific time. And thanks for joining. Game on.
Look at that fucking door. Fucking